Welcome back, everyone. This is the video I was promising you all to make. This is my recent acquisition. As I mentioned in the last video, I was really interested in one of these Singer tables that are, I don't even know, I can't remember, they had a certain marketing name, and I'll have to go back and look, I don't remember. But it opens up and becomes this huge, giant, wonderful work surface. I had one, I sold it, and I thought, I want one, and I found one again, so I bought it. And that's why the BU Mira, which is this, probably even cost even more than the Singer did back in the 50s, it is now for sale. So, along with that glorious table it has, but you guys have seen me do this before. So, what came in this machine, in this Singer cabinet, it could have been any number of Singers, but it is, of course, the Slant-O-Matic Singer 401A from 1956-57. It was the most featured, fully optioned out Singer sewing machine you could purchase in the late 50s. Singer spent a lot of money engineering it, bringing it out, and it was Singer was a little bit late to the party, not in industrial, but for their home sewing machines. They didn't sell a lot of they weren't big on zigzag in North America. Now, they were making them in Europe for other markets, but they were slow to bring them to the US, and that's one of the reasons they get criticized sometimes. But in any case, they had some early attempts. The other Singer models they had tried, and they were somewhat successful, but this is the one that really finally put Singer in the zigzag world in a big way. And again, for reference, you can see, I think I know I've restored four the straight stitch version of this machine, along with the 403, which is semi-automatic. It uses all top hat cams to get its decorative stitches, and even the zigzag, or this one, which has most of its stitches built in, and you can even see it has a nice little guide when you open up the lid there. It shows you, I'll zoom in, you see it shows you the combinations of settings. Now remember, this machine was invented long before computerized motherboard microprocessors were in sewing machines. So anytime you wanted the machine to do something, you had a physical setting, either a lever or a dial. And this dial is interesting because the center part, the darker tone dial, you push in to turn, and there's a reason why I'm not turning it, but those of you who've ever had a 400 series or any of the Slant-O-Matics will appreciate this. The dial that sits behind this one, the cream colored one, you pull out to adjust, and I'm not turning it either. I've told you guys in past videos before, it's one of the most important things you're ever going to do when you get a vintage sewing machine is you want to be gentle, right? You want to test. So I'm turning the hand wheel and it turns, and I'm getting movement here. When I try, this is the needle position. It gives you quite a lot of adjustment here between left and right and center. If I try, and you can do this with your own, watch the needle. First of all, let's pull it up. You don't want to break the needle. Let's pull this up so the needle's out of the needle plate there. Now notice, if this machine was fully restored and operational, this needle, this is the Singer's famous or infamous, depending on how you look at it, their floating needle bar. It's an engineering marvel, and it works beautifully when it's maintained. This machine is not unlike a lot of the German Pfaffs. When they sit for long periods and they get frozen, they're kind of like German Pfaffs, Italian Neckies. They can be a lot of work to unlock. I think they're worth it because they're amazing. But I knew when I saw this one, and it had been sitting for quite a few years, I had a pretty strong idea. Well, okay, I just knew, but that's okay. I know how to bring these back. I just knew I was going to be investing a few more hours. Once these machines are brought back to life and they've been fully gone through, if you use them regularly, you're not going to have this problem. They're not going to, it's not like they freeze up every so often. But when you have a machine that has a lot of moving parts, a lot of intricacy, and you either it sits or it sits in a garage. I think this sat in a garage somewhere. And the hot and cold cycles, the old oil, you end up getting a lot of glue. So if I touch this, guys, watch, and I'm doing this very carefully, you pull down to move this. Normally, if I go to the left, the needle right here, you should see this move. Now, oh, okay, well, we saw it move a little bit to the left, but if I want to come up to the right, I can move this lever, okay, very carefully. Be very gentle in testing these things. Like, notice I'm moving it, but the needle's not moving. I'm just going to stop, okay? It hasn't reached an obstacle yet, which often will happen. But if something is moving and its corresponding part is not, you just stop there and don't go any further. Because of all the machines I restore, again, I've had German Pfaffs, some of the Neckies, and this series of the Slant-O-Matic, not so much the 301, it's a straight stitcher. But when you get to something with such intricate mechanicals as this, you don't want to damage the machine, and you can if you force it. Remember, this machine is tough. They're really strong. They're not fragile. But if you glue the parts together and you start forcing them, you can cause damage, and that would be unfortunate, and it's unnecessary. Okay, so you may be excited. You got this home. Oh, I want to sew it. I want to sew it. No, 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 no. Just stop right there. Okay, unless you're buying a machine from someone like myself who restores them and has them ready in operational condition, which is part of what you're paying for. If you're going to restore this, that's, but just be patient and take your time, and you'll be fine. Now, let's take a look. I'm going to change the camera angle a little bit here, and we'll take a look at one of the things that this machine offers. It is a front-loading, top-loading bobbin. Okay, it is, what we call it's technically the Class 66 Singer invented. People call them flat bobbins, or there's another name for them. It escapes me now. But anyway, you'll notice that we've got movement here. I can see that the hook is moving. Right now, I haven't tested this thing yet, but I already know, and I've told you guys before, that these machines, this design that Singer came up with, the floating needle bar, is rather remarkable, because not only most zigzag machines from this period, they have the needle bar, and then there's a mechanical arm that moves side to side, right, which gives you your zigzag stitch. And then if you want to do the decorative stitches, they have cams just like this one does. This needle bar actually can rotate. I say it's rotating. They call it the floating bar. And when you see something like a decorative stitch being formed, we'll try to get a close-up of this so you guys can see this bar. It's an engineering marvel in my very layman's perspective here. But with complexity can come problems if the maintenance is not done. And this machine is overdue. We're going to bring it back. Okay, so it's, I'm not pessimistic. In fact, again, if you get one of these machines and you're like, oh no, don't be surprised. That's pretty normal. But it can be brought back. It can be restored. You just have to, again, approach it one thing at a time. You don't get in a hurry. And there's lots of information on the internet, some here at my channel and other channels, where you can find ways to do this. Now I'm going to pull this up, and even the needle, the presser foot bar it's moving, but I can tell it's really thirsty. This machine is like the Tin Man that hasn't had oil in a long time. It's very stiff. Now, if I take I'm going to test this over here, the stitch length, right? So let's make sure that that's been loosened enough where we can move it. Now, watch when I pull up, okay? If you look closely, you'll see the feed dogs are moving. That tells me that I do have a connection and movement here. But does that mean it's ready to go? No. Even if you get movement on some part of your machine that you've just gotten a hold of, it hasn't been overhauled, folks, that doesn't mean it's ready to go. It can be very deceptive. When it's stuck, you know that there's something wrong. But if it hasn't been cleaned, there's still dust and grime in here. In fact, I can see some sitting in here. And it hasn't been oiled. These are real machines with metal moving parts. They were meant to be lubricated, and that's when they really shine. So give any machine you get the benefit of the doubt. Give it what it was engineered to have, and it will perform for you in ways that just will shock you compared to the new, mostly junky machines that they offer today. So I can already tell this machine is going to be quite the project, but again, it's okay. I've done it before and I will again, and it offers some really wonderful features. I have no idea. Maybe I'll put this back. Maybe this is the machine I will keep with the original table and I'll just use it because, you know, if I were a sewer, I would want a dedicated straight stitcher. And then I would also want a machine that could do zigzag. It wouldn't have to be this one. It could be a Japanese clone. Any number of them would suit my needs. But for your needs, it might be a little different. But no, I think that having a machine like this, you know, it would suit me just fine. So if I have someone who says, I just got to have that 401A, I'll probably sell it to them and find something else. Because I'm not picky about the specific machine. I am picky about something being all metal and being vintage. And there are very few machines from the vintage era that I don't care for. A few, but you know, it's part of this is very subjective. You can see this machine, I don't know, I suspect this was oil, and someone may have even squirted oil here, hoping that would help. Maybe it would. Now you can see here the throat plate mechanism. It's so stiff, it won't. I'm having to push and it's not moving. There is normal tension here, but this is really tight. And if I force it, it might be okay, or I might break it. Why do that? There's no reason to, right? I'm going to be taking things apart one section at a time. If you take this on a little at a time, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can kind of be a little bit of an adventure, which it probably will be. So eventually I will get all of this set again, and we'll take a look at it. And right now I can turn the tension assembly down here. But these machines were wonderful, and I always have to emphasize to people, you know, I actually have restored these for clients before, and when I have, I always tell them, I tell everyone the same thing. Please don't put this in a garage or a building that's separate on your property. These machines need two essential things. They need to be stored in climate-controlled comfort, which people prefer for themselves. The machine prefers it also. And use them occasionally. You don't have to use it every day or every week or even just a few times a year. Give it a little just give it a little run around the street, you know, and let it work in. Make a few test stitches, do some sewing off and do some test stitching with some of the decorative stitches. What you're doing is you're helping keep the parts in there lubricated, keeping them fresh. And when you do that, this machine should be reliable and it should sew for you beautifully. You know, it's an heirloom piece of property here. This is one of the great vintage sewing machines. But like some of the Pfaffs I have restored with the multi-stitches and some of the Neckies, if you leave them alone and ignore them, and, you know, even worse, you put them in places where you really shouldn't store a sewing machine, you're going to have frozen stuff. You're going to have lots of work and time and things you need to do to get the machine going. So it's all about maintenance, really. Some machines are more forgiving. Any machine can freeze up, some more so than others. When you get out of the realm of the straight stitchers and you're into even just a basic zigzag machine, much less something like this or one of the Pfaffs that can do all these fancy, beautiful stitches mechanically, they don't appreciate sitting and being left forlorn. They get fussy. And this one is no exception, but we're going to, like I said, going to dive in at some point here when my schedule permits and start going in. You can see we've got oil, or I don't know, it could be nicotine, who knows what it is, but we're going to loosen her up. And I'm confident, fingers crossed, that this machine will live to make glorious stitches again. It's just, as I have liked to describe to you guys in the past, it's asleep. It's in hibernation. Like the Tin Man and the Wizard of Oz has just been sitting there. But we don't need software. We don't need algorithms. We don't need any company to support the software or to send us updates. This machine just needs TLC, and it should come to life again and do what a sewing machine should do, which is to stitch and sew things. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. But we'll be following up with more videos as I eventually get into this machine, but I wanted you to see my latest acquisition. And who knows, one day I'll figure out what machine I'm going to keep for myself indefinitely, but For now, I have no idea, but got to get it running first. Thanks for watching.